First, we start off with the markets. The S&P 500 locking in its 7th day in a row of gains. That is its longest winning streak since October 2017. Now less than 2% away from its all-time high. And check out the champions this week. Win up a whopping 18%. Advanced Micro Devices soaring 14%. Delta Airlines jumping 12%. And look at that Macys move up 6%. So, be a perfect time to play a little bit of trade it or fade it.
Love game.
Right big winners. We're going to get right to it, guys. On here, we don't need to explain how this works. Grasso, we kick it off with you. Win, trade it, or fade it.
So I'm going to say fade this one. But a lot of things have gone right. You had China. That actually scared me.
Delayed reaction.
So you had
Wrong
Macau. Exactly. Macau Gaming was up. Basically, that's the last push in this one. No China recession or earnings recession there. But I do believe that it's front-loaded. And I think you have to fade it at this point. There's a lot in the numbers already.
See, we've been talking so much, and I realize you're not terribly sold on the global recovery, et cetera. But, I mean, look, bottom line is I think a lot of Wynn's pain has been not only Macau, but just a China trade, and certainly some pressure on a lot of the casinos and those that are mostly exposed to Asia. By the way, I don't think Wynn is just a Macau property story. I think actually what's going on in Massachusetts, they've got a couple new properties opening up, and I think the valuation relative to the peer group is most compelling here. So I'm actually trading this one.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I'm going with you on the traded on that one as well. Listen, I do think that China is a big driver of this. If that economy is going to be doing better, if they're stimulating it, that's going to help them. But they have a lot of other growth levers that are going on. Obviously, they had some serious PR issues last year. It appears they've gotten through that, and now if they can start growing here in the U.S., I think that'll be helpful.
It's up 42% year to date, though. So I think a lot of that is probably in the numbers. And if the China trade deal is lackluster, then it could already be
Our president told us it's going to be great.
Oh.
So did the
you know what? I
president,
take it back.
That's true.
They both said it, but I think that's a reason why you see, obviously, Macau numbers were the reason why the latest spike that we saw are up. But I think a lot of this is the China trade positive already in the stock price.
All right, let's talk a little AMD here. Tim Seymour, this is yours. Trade it or fade it?
Yeah, let me come right out of the gates, be clear. I'm going to fade this one. And I realize that probably I would have gotten this stock wrong also in the early part of last year when it went on a heroic tear. It's up 77% off the lows, but get to the fundamentals. Look, I think demand is really actually kind of soft, and I think these guys may see an inventory drag into the second half part of the year. So after what I think is a combination of, I think people got certainly into the momentum trade on the downside and shorted this. I think there's been some short covering. They had some decent numbers, but I would fade this one. Say it again, Tim.
Yeah, so I would also fade it. It's up 50% since they reported their Q4 earnings in January. And I got to say that the sentiment into that print was really poor. Now it's obviously the exact opposite situation when you talk about the potential for that inventory drag into the second half. I think it's real. I just want to also mention that 2018 for this stock was phenomenal. You take out that move that it had in late Q3, early Q4, it actually showed some pretty good relative strength into the end of Q4. So the stock acts great. It's got great management. They're really kind of well positioned. They took advantage of some problems that Intel had last year. I'm just not buying the stock into their Q1 print, up 55% in the year.
Beeks?
I don't know how to say this, but I would wait for a pullback, then trade it. Does that make sense?
Fade.
What game is that?
The rules of the game.
I mean, I guess it's a trade, but I mean, listen, it's up. It's had a really good run here. It's correlated with global PMIs. That's fantastic. But I think it's a prove me story. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So I would either buy it on a pullback, or if you get that momentum through $30, that's what I would buy.
I would fade it, but is it based on at all? Is it based on Bitcoin action at all? Because if you overlay the charts, that used to be what pushed it.
It shouldn't be.
So
let's put it that way.
You had an analyst downgrade Intel and upgrade, or I shouldn't say they didn't upgrade AMD, but they said they noted competition from AMD on Intel. So you would think it would be bullish, but I think with the stock spiking this much, it is a volatile number, and I would not be in it right now.
That could be a new game, by the way.
What?
Bullish.
Yeah, just, you does that equal bearish?
Really like it.
Really bullish. Bullish.
All right, we're going to move on here.
Sorry.
Delta, Brian Kelly, fade or trade it?
Bullish on this one. I like Delta here. So if we're getting a global recovery, Delta's most exposed to that. It's had a tremendous week. You've got momentum going on. They've got earnings on Wednesday. The only caveat I would say is obviously at some point oil becomes a bit of a drag potentially to this. But I think this is exposed to the global recovery, China deal. You name it, it's in this stock.
I mean, oil, we would see price caps, right? Because once oil gets to a certain point, you would think that the U.S. producer would kick in and start producing a lot and bring that price down.
Yeah, so with airlines, I know this is what's often brought up. It's the same way with interest rates and home builders, and it's relevant, except for the fact that airlines do a good job or bad job hedging, and usually also airlines like higher oil prices because it allows them pricing power to actually add on prices. So I actually don't think this is negative. I think for Delta, we just got that first quarter update. They give that, in other words, it was as expected, but the numbers were better than expected in terms of the revenue per available seat miles. The valuation to me is what's most attractive, best in the group, nice dividend, stay long.
Well, I think the other stuff was the non-fuel costs didn't go up as much as they thought they were going to go up. So I think that was a tailwind here. But this is about the Amex deal being pushed forward. This is about guidance being pushed higher. So I think this is bullish. They didn't have that exposure to Boeing. So that was a bullish tailwind.
So bullish.
Yeah, but I would say fade it.
Oh, whoa. That was a total bear.
I just think from a trading standpoint, you had this news. It was unexpected. The stock went parabolic this week, right? And you know that they have this earnings event. The likelihood of them being able to follow up whatever it is that they did this week, next week is not great. And I think you probably should have at least a consolidation, possibly a pullback.
All right, this one's for Dan. Macy's, traded or faded?
Here's the deal. Sorry about that.
Oh, I thought that was for effect.
Yeah.
I'm trading this one, and I'll tell you why. I think that here's a situation where I know that you guys love the valuation. The sentiment is just downright horrible. The consumer data has been a bit mixed, but I think what's going on, let me tell you, all these department stores, they look like death. I mean, you look at the Nordstroms, you look at some of the others, they just look like death. Structurally, there's some problems there. But expectations are really low. I mean, I think we're looking for a double-digit earnings decline this year, flat sales of $25 billion. Here's my take on a Macy's that has this sort of brand. I think ultimately, if you see this kind of online bricks and mortar, this sort of thing, I don't think these guys are going to be able to figure it out on their own, the omni-channel. I think we're going to see some broader partnerships. That's going to happen in 2019. So I think it's cheap at 8 times earnings. I think you trade it.
I would trade this one too.
Yeah,
I would trade this one too. And I think the consensus has been bearish in this name. And it's worth, the market cap is just under $8 billion. I think that in a perfect world for Macy's, it would be worth $20 billion. So I would be bullish.
This is not the name of the game, by the way.
I thought we called it traded or faded.
All right, bonus round. We've got a little time. Bonus round. Because the S&P 500 is about 2% from all-time highs, trade it or fade it. Tim.
I'm talking about a short-term outlook here. I think it continues to squeeze higher. And the back of the numbers we had today, towards the U.S. economy, the numbers we had this week, global PMIs actually are better than U.S. numbers these days. You trade the S&P here.
Yeah, you trade it. It's bullish. I mean, basically, listen, if every single central bank and every government wants to stimulate, that's positive for stocks. At some point, it becomes a negative, but I don't think that's today. Bullish, trade it.